Hi, I'm Annalia Pucciarella, and welcome to Brightly Becoming. This is a podcast about faith, healing, and becoming the person that you were created to be. It's about the seasons that stretch us, the moments that strip us down, and the quiet, often unseen work of rebuilding stronger, wiser, and more rooted than before. Here, we talk about navigating health struggles in your 20s, trusting your body instead of fighting it, caring for your mind, and regulating your nervous system. This is a space to slow down, to breathe, to feel seen and understood, to reconnect with your faith, and to let your body feel like home again. Whether you're walking through a painful season or simply longing to live a more intentional, grounded life, this space is for you, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Brightly Becoming. In today's episode, I want to share my own story. This season that stripped everything away from me and what it taught me. How I'm slowly rebuilding my life with God at the center. Chronic illness is not new to me. Over time, I've learned how to coexist with it, to shake hands with it instead of constantly resist it, but there was a season where I fell into a deep victim mentality. I believed that my body was the enemy, that it had betrayed me in ways I couldn't yet understand. I've lived with undiagnosed health issues on and off since I was about 10 years old, but it wasn't until last year that I really received answers that I had been praying for. Answers that made everything click. At the time, my life looked like it was unfolding exactly as planned. I had just graduated college, I landed a sales job, I rented my first apartment, I was living with the man I love, I had independence, momentum, but underneath it all, I was exhausted. Exhausted on a level I didn't even recognize until my body forced me to stop. One morning, I woke up for work and everything changed. The next thing I remember, I was riding in the back of an ambulance, still in my work clothes and my high heels, genuinely afraid for my life. I had been experiencing extreme fatigue for months. One appointment led to another until a hematologist sat me down and told me I urgently needed an iron infusion, or my health would be at serious risk. She carefully avoided the word leukemia, but the implication hung heavy in the room that day. My heart dropped, and suddenly I was 10 years old all over again. The thing I thought would save my life turned out to change the entire trajectory of it. And the infusion itself went smoothly, but that night I developed a crushing migraine. I couldn't keep anything down, and I knew something wasn't right. My boyfriend had rushed me to the emergency room that night, and I just remember worrying more about missing work the next day than about what was happening in my own body. I was so distracted by my own success that I couldn't even pay attention to what was going on inside my body. The doctor told me I was having a delayed reaction to an iron infusion. I thought, okay, no big deal, this will pass. He gave me pain medication through my IV and prepared to discharge me. But moments after the medication hit, a wave of terror washed over me. A deep, instinctual knowing that something was very wrong. I felt like I was leaving my body, like I was dying. They gave me Benadryl to counteract the reaction, and eventually I was sent home. I woke up the next morning and nothing was the same. I began experiencing intense dissociation, waves of impending doom, and a terrifying sense that nothing around me was real. And as if that wasn't enough, I had run myself so hard at work trying to hit my monthly sales goal that I got sick. I ended up working 13 hours on Black Friday, determined to sell X amount of vehicles. I stood outside in the snow. I sliced my finger open and I needed lidocaine injected into the open wound. And I got stitches. So to me, it was the perfect storm of events that just led to this moment. But looking back on it, I can laugh now, but back then, it felt like my entire world was crumbling. And I still went back to work 2 days later, just filled with guilt that was self-imposed for needing to take time off. Until it happened again. I was eating lunch at my desk when that same wave hit. Sudden, overwhelming panic. and I tried not to make a scene, but that felt inevitable. I knew I needed help. I thought I was having a stroke. Something did not feel right neurologically. Once again, I found myself in the back of an ambulance, and at this time, I'm pretty sure my coworkers just started to associate me with 911 calls. I swear. It was so embarrassing, so humbling. Of course, at the hospital, I was told it was a panic attack, and I was diagnosed with anxiety and sent home. If you also live with chronic illness, you know just how devastating that moment is. Begging someone to help you while being told it's just anxiety. I mean, it's soul crushing. And after that, everything unraveled. That iron infusion triggered what would become the worst flare of my life. Foods that I had eaten previously my entire life suddenly caused allergic reactions. I began having non-convulsive seizures. I couldn't be left alone. Nothing felt real. Not my apartment, not my relationship, not even myself. I genuinely thought I was losing my mind. It was absolutely terrifying. Eventually, my mom drove to my apartment and brought me home. That was in January. The months that followed were the hardest of my life. Neurologically, I just remember everything feeling dark. I spent months sitting in the same recliner, too afraid to eat, too afraid to be alone, terrified of my own body. My nervous system felt like it was on fire. My world just kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And one by one, everything that had defined me was taken away. My health, my job, my independence, my relationship, my apartment, all of it. No one talks about the grief of illness, not even just the symptoms alone, but the loss of identity. I wasn't the high-performing saleswoman anymore. I wasn't the independent, financially independent woman planning her future. I wasn't the person who could just get up and go. I was terrified to live in a body that was unpredictable, and that was my new identity. All the noise, the adrenaline of the dealership, the constant movement, it was gone. Everything that once distracted me from myself had disappeared, and that silence felt unbearable. I hit rock bottom. I truly believed that no one could save me, and I began to accept that I may die with no explanation as to why and no hope. And then something shifted. God met me at rock bottom. He pulled me out, and he stripped away the life I had built without him so he could rebuild something with a solid foundation, with him now at the center. I had built my life on momentum, on self-reliance, on pride, on achievement. I idolized money and success. I went from seeing my family twice a year to living under the same roof again. It's funny how that played out. And no, I did not surrender easily. I fought, I grieved, I got angry at God, and I begged for my old life back. But God is so intentional, and he let me fall apart. He listened to my anger toward him, and he still stayed with me. You see, God meets us where we are. He will meet us in the dark. He will meet you in the dirtiest, most shameful version of yourself. And you'll think that you're too far gone, but his love is unfailing. Healing isn't about returning to who you were. It's about becoming who you were never allowed to be, surviving. I learned to listen to my body instead of override it. I learned that rest is not laziness, it's obedience. And I learned that needing help does not make you weak. It makes you human. A year later, I was officially diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. 13 years after my symptoms began, an answered prayer. There it was, right in my hands. Do I wish it was sooner? Absolutely. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Today, I still experience daily symptoms, and I'm still healing, but I no longer want my old life back. If you're listening and your life feels unrecognizable, if your body feels like it betrayed you, if everything you built is suddenly starting to collapse, please trust me when I say you are not being punished. This is not the end. These are the first steps of becoming. The first steps of becoming don't feel bright. I wish somebody would have told me that. Actually, I don't, because if somebody would have told me this at the beginning of my journey, I would have just felt angry. I mean, the first steps of becoming, they just feel painful. They feel confusing. And even there, you're being made new. God stripped me of everything I had built without Him. Thank you for listening to the first episode of Brightly Becoming. If this resonated with you in any way, if you're in a hard season, you are not alone. In future episodes, we'll talk about healing, faith, nervous system regulation, and all of the in-between moments of life in your 20s. Wherever you are on your journey, you are not behind. You are still becoming. Talk to you soon.